The disheveled stranger shuffled into his fifth luxury restaurant that week, calmly requesting a table despite the hostess's obvious disgust. Staff whispered as he carefully observed every interaction, taking mental notes while being treated like an unwelcome nuisance. Restaurant workers wondered why he always showed up at their door. But his big revelation would change all they thought they knew and leave them stunned. The elderly man stood outside the gleaming entrance of La Maison, one of the city's most prestigious restaurants. His weathered hands nervously adjusted the frayed collar of his coat as passers-by averted their eyes. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped inside. The hostess looked up from her reservation book, her welcoming smile quickly fading. She glanced around nervously, clearly hoping other guests wouldn't notice the disheveled figure who had just entered her pristine domain. The man's tired eyes met hers as he politely asked for a table. Her mouth tightened into a thin line. After a moment of uncomfortable silence, she reluctantly led him to a table tucked away in the corner, far from the other diners. As she walked away, he noticed her whispering to a server, both shooting glances in his direction. The message was clear: serve him quickly and get him out. This wasn't the first establishment where the homeless man had received such treatment. In fact, it was the fifth upscale restaurant he had visited that week. At each location, the pattern was depressingly similar. Some places refused him entry outright, citing dress codes or fully booked reservations despite visibly empty tables. Others served him with obvious disdain, placing his food down hastily before rushing away as if his poverty might be contagious. The staff at La Maison was particularly uncomfortable with his presence. The manager kept finding excuses to walk past his table, checking that he wasn't disturbing the other guests. As the man slowly ate his meal, he methodically observed every detail around him. He noted how the staff interacted with other customers, the efficiency of service, and the way employees treated each other when they thought no one was looking. Nothing escaped his attention, not the server who rolled her eyes when asked for extra bread, nor the manager who berated a busboy for a minor mistake. When he finally asked for his check, the relief on his server's face was palpable. After paying, he left without fanfare, disappearing back into the busy streets. Staff members visibly relaxed as the door closed behind him, returning to their routines as if nothing unusual had happened. This unusual pattern continued for weeks, with the mysterious man appearing at different high-end restaurants throughout the city. The man visited each restaurant multiple times, appearing at different meal services, sitting in various sections, and ordering different menu items. The man never caused trouble. He never complained about the service, even when it was deliberately slow or cold. He never argued about prices or demanded special treatment. He simply observed, ate his meal, paid his bill, and left. His quiet dignity went unnoticed amidst the assumptions about his worth based solely on appearance. The constant rejection and thinly veiled contempt seemed to weigh heavily on his shoulders. His eyes, once merely tired, now carried a profound sadness. On what appeared to be the final day of his mysterious restaurant tour, the man looked particularly exhausted. He stopped at a small downtown diner far from the wealthy neighborhoods he had been frequenting. The humble establishment was nothing like the previous restaurants. A waitress named Elena approached his table, offering the same warm smile she gave to every customer. There was no hesitation in her manner, no quick assessment of his worth based on appearance. She chatted easily while pouring his coffee, recommending the daily special with genuine enthusiasm. Throughout his meal, Maxwell watched Elena work. She treated everyone with equal dignity, from suited businessmen to the clearly homeless woman nursing a cup of coffee in the corner. When a customer became difficult, she handled him with remarkable grace. Her co-workers seemed to naturally look to her for guidance, which she provided with quiet confidence. When it came time to pay, Maxwell fumbled with his few coins. Without drawing attention or making him feel ashamed, Elena quietly told him the meal was taken care of, refusing his protestations with a kind but firm insistence that it wasn't a problem. She never made him feel like a charity case, just a valued customer having a rough day. 3 days later, Elena received an elegant envelope at the diner. Inside was an invitation to interview for a restaurant management position at an address in the city's most exclusive neighborhood. Her co-workers encouraged her to go, despite her protests that she lacked formal qualifications. When Elena arrived at the magnificent home, she was confused by the lack of a restaurant. A butler showed her into a tasteful sitting room where she was greeted by a familiar face, the homeless man she had served days earlier. Except now he was transformed, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his once unkempt beard now neatly trimmed. The elderly man rose to his feet with a warm smile, extending his hand in greeting. His voice, previously soft and hesitant, was now clear and commanding as he introduced himself as Maxwell Green, owner of 5 prestigious restaurants across the city. Elena's shock was evident as the pieces began falling into place. Growing up in poverty and working endless hours, Maxwell has grown his wealth by building chains of restaurants. As retirement approached, Maxwell explained, he had faced a difficult problem. His loyal attorney, the only person who knew him beyond his business persona, had been urging him to make succession plans. His restaurant managers, many of whom had worked for him for years, expected to inherit portions of his business. They performed elaborate displays of competence whenever he made official visits, the dining rooms running with military precision during his announced inspections. But Maxwell had always been perceptive. He suspected the character of his employees didn't match their performance when they knew the boss was watching. After decades in the business, he understood that true excellence came from how people behaved when no one important was looking. He needed to know who his restaurants would be entrusted to after he was gone. So he had devised his test, confiding only in his attorney. With expert makeup and clothing carefully selected from thrift stores, he transformed himself into someone the service industry typically works hard to ignore. The disguise had been painfully effective, rendering him virtually invisible to the very people who would normally hang on his every word. Day after day, Maxwell visited his own establishments, sitting quietly and observing. The results were disappointing beyond anything he had anticipated. He watched as hosts sneered at his appearance, and servers neglected his table. Most painful was overhearing conversations in which his most trusted employees mocked him behind his back, eagerly calculating what they would change once the old man finally retired. Not one person in his carefully built world had shown him genuine compassion. Even those who had served him properly had done so with barely concealed contempt, bringing him the minimum required service before hustling him out the door. Elena was the only person who had shown him basic human dignity. He didn't just want to offer her a management position. He proposed a mentorship with the intention of eventually leaving her his entire restaurant group. As Elena resumed, she brought fresh ideas and genuine warmth to establishments that had become efficient but soulless. As the years passed, their relationship transcended business. Maxwell found in Elena the daughter he never had, and she found the father figure she had always needed. Maxwell finally understood that his greatest legacy wouldn't be the restaurants he built, but the values he could pass on through someone who truly embodied them. The homeless man's mysterious restaurant visits weren't just a test. They were his final and most important investment in humanity. Have you ever wondered how differently people might treat you if they didn't know who you really were? What would people learn about you if they could observe you when you thought no one was watching?